Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Game Over Vancouver after a Canucks 4-3 overtime stressful win against the New York Islanders. My name is Parker. And before we get started, we do have a really fun show tonight here to break this game down. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Betano. The NHL season is heating up. There's never been a better time to get down to the action, whether you're looking to hammer an Austin Matthews anytime goal or ride the puck line with the Montreal Canadiens. Our partners at Sign Up Expert want to make sure you're ready to sweat your bets with one of the best. Sign Up Expert is hooking up our listeners with one of the newest sports books available in Canada, Betano. Betano is home to some of the best odds when it comes to betting on the NHL and offers unique markets, including virtual soccer and basketball. All you have to do is get started to scan that QR code on your screen or click the link in the description to register and place that first bet. If you thought your Vancouver Canucks have been the best surprise of the season so far, wait till you try Betano. Don't walk, run to check out Betano today. Scan that QR code or hit the link in the description to get started and start sweating your bets with the best. Always remember to bet responsibly and within your means. Viewers must be 19 plus to sign up. Very exciting show tonight as the Canucks take down Bo Horvat's New York Islanders. And I'm very excited to introduce my guest for the night, who was a Bochford Project participant with me last year and interviewed Bo Horvat for her piece for Canucks.com. Welcome, Allie Penders. Welcome, Allie.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. First off, your reaction to this game. It was a stressful one, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely a nail biter. Didn't love the start, but you know what? It all comes out in the wash when they cap off that win with a beautiful Quinn Hughes goal.
Yeah, it's a bit of adversity that this team hasn't really faced. They haven't really had to battle back from many 2-goal leads or 2-goal deficits, I should say, so far this season. So yeah, we're going to take some time going through the game. We'll go through all the big moments that happened and break those down for you. And then afterwards, we'll do some talk about Bo Horvat and sort of the ovation he received during the video tribute, the booing when he touched the puck, and the bit of the misty eyes that we saw a little bit as well on his return back to Vancouver. So let's get started with the first period in this one. Pretty rough start for the Canucks, I would say, in the first period. You have Demko having to make an unreal save about 2 minutes in. Oliver Wahlstrom gets that cross-ice pass. And Demko's just been so good all year and sets the tone early with that one. Were you see that? You think Demko's dialed in and is going to be unstoppable, or you think maybe it's a bit of a luckier stop?
I think he's playing some of his best hockey in his career right now. The guy, how can you not feel confident knowing you have that guy at your end of the ice making plays and stops like he did in that moment? And we saw a few of them tonight from him. He's just dialed right in. He is laser focused, and I just love him on the ice right now.
Yeah. The stats speak for themselves, obviously, but some of the saves that he had to make, and you look at the stat line, it's, a pretty average night for him. I don't know what the exact number of shots ended up being, but it was probably around 30, and he stopped, he let 3 in. So he's like, sort of average, subpar night. But some of the saves that he had to make, right? That one for one, the play where he shoots it around the boards, which happened twice, that he had to scramble back into his net. So he's been great. And then sort of rough start for the Canucks. The first power play goes to the Islanders. It's Bo Horvat drawing the penalty, which of course it's typical. And then the first goal Demko lets through, it's a bit of a fluky one. It's Engvall's shot. It goes off of Joshua and it sort of sneaks through Demko to make it 1-0. And previously, I would say I'm worried early if the Canucks are allowing first goals, but seeing the way they've played and the offense that they have, and knowing sort of power plays usually even out in the long run in this league, the Canucks are getting a chance on their own with that pretty good power play.
Yeah, this team, they never let you down, which is very odd. As somebody who has followed the Canucks for a few years now, this season is unlike anything I've seen from them in my time following them. And in past seasons, you might have stressed at that first one going in, that fluky one, but we have the hope right now, and they're continuing to give it to the fans. And we saw it again tonight.
Yeah, and that hope took another hit right after because Ian Cole, who just got out of the box about a minute prior, then they sort of like get kind of lazy and they're just passing. They refuse to go up the ice and they're just passing it back. And then Ian Cole faces the lightest amount of pressure and puts it over the glass, which I feel like the Canucks have taken a lot of those this year. I mean, Myers has a couple, I think, which isn't that surprising. And they basically score again immediately. It's a weak shot that sort of slides onto Demko. There's a weak rebound that Nelson just sort of sweeps. And again, Demko, you'd like him to make the save, but it goes off of Hughes' stick to get through. So that's 2 goals that he really didn't have a clear shot at. So it goes to 2-0. Maybe a little hint of the old penalty kill from last year we're seeing there.
Yeah, definitely not firing on all cylinders. That might be something they're running in practice the next couple days.
Yeah, and it helps in the power plays going at such a high click that you can be like, hey, well, we'll just get it back. And they did obviously later on. And the rest of the period, because they weren't great in the first half, the rest of the period, they were essentially even the rest of the way. You look at like analytically wise at 5-on-5, they show, high danger chances 7-2 in the first for the Canucks. But they only really showed up for half the period. They allowed the 2 power play goals. So they're down 2-0, which takes us to the second. And the Canucks get their first power play as Friedman gets hit. Just kind of like they called it boarding, but it seemed kind of like a normal hit to me, but his head sort of went into the boards. And then Pettersson on this power play gets his stick slashed in half, which doesn't get called. And maybe the refs are thinking like, maybe that Friedman one wasn't much of a penalty. And then the Canucks are so efficient with their shooting right now, right? There's all this talk about the PDO and they're taking so many, they're scoring so many goals on so few shots and they're allowing none. And then they skate around for a full minute and 40 seconds on this power play. And then they finally take a shot and it's a JT Miller one-timer that sort of sneaks through Sorokin to make it 2-1. One of the most dangerous power plays in the league. I don't know where they stack up. I think they're third, maybe. Although after tonight, 3 power play goals, it might be higher. Is there anything in particular you're seeing with the power play that you think is the reason for it? Is it just a personnel thing in your mind, or are the Sedins doing some magic, you think?
You've got such a staff working with the players right now, but I think it also kind of comes to off of the ice stuff. It feels like this team is really connecting with each other. You can see it in how they communicate last season, being at the games and seeing the stress and frustration between the players. This season, it's just you're not seeing any of that. You're seeing clear connections, really clear passing, and just that communication mixed with your personnel on the ice in practices. I think it's all clicking for all of those reasons.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Islanders get one back. This is Quinn Hughes, your first star of the game in this one, and 3 points again. Makes a mistake on this Horvat goal where he essentially just passes it to Barzal on the breakout. So Horvat comes in. We saw this coming, right? We saw a Horvat goal in the cards.
Oh, if you're not taking that bet and you're a gambler, then I don't know what you're doing on a night like tonight. You had to know it was coming. The goal before it, you had the JT Miller goal. You almost had to see that one coming too, going into tonight. And just the fact that it was Horvat right after Miller, you couldn't write it any better than that.
No Beauvillier goal though on the answer back. That's something that we were missing in this one.
Yeah, if there was one to keep an eye out aside from the ones we got, it would have been Bo. But that's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah. Canucks do get a power play back, and again they answer. Joshua probably had a breakaway, Dakota Joshua, and by the way, Dakota Joshua had a fantastic game tonight. I've been pretty iffy on Joshua, especially this year, especially when it's keeping guys like Höglander out of the lineup and with Bluger coming back. I thought Joshua might be the guy to take the back seat, but obviously Pius Suter can't make it in. And so Joshua just is competing for his spot really on this roster. So he gets interfered with by Dobson, and then JT Miller, who had that goal that brought them somewhat back in this game, makes a perfect little saucer pass to Brock Besser, who's got 4 guys around him in a square essentially, and he's just sitting in the middle of it. It lands on his stick. 13 goals in 16 games for Besser. I didn't know if he'd scored 20 goals this year. Um, obviously, I imagine you're surprised by the output. Where do you think he takes this year?
Oh my gosh, I think sky's the limit for this guy. I think I was really hoping for a Brock Besser comeback year this year. He's had a little bit of drama, a little bit of a struggle the last couple seasons, and I like to think he's on pace for to pass 30 for the first time. I would love to see it. I mean, he's at 13, and what we're
16
only
games.
2 months into the season, not even. Yeah, we're so I love this for him. The guys, he's one of the backbones of this team, whether people like to admit it or not. And I'm really, really happy for him. And scoring goals like that just right in front, you gotta love it.
Yeah, it's a great shot. Placed placed well enough, at least that quickly. He's on pace for 67 goals this year, which he's the weird thing is he's been on that pace for like 2 weeks now. It's been like, okay, yeah, he's on pace for 70
Yeah,
goals, sure, and he's still on pace for
I say
67.
he does it. Why not?
Why not? Yeah, I mean,
Why
if
not?
everyone's scoring on every
He's
shot,
leading.
yeah, he's shooting at 28%, which is probably sustainable. I mean, his rookie year, he was 16%. So, he's been like at about 10 since then. Maybe somewhere in the middle makes more sense, but I mean, he's got every reason to hit 40 now this year. If you think he was going to score 30 coming into the year, like he's built up such a padding that, 35 plus might not be too unrealistic.
I don't think so either. I think he does it. I hope he stays healthy. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And I just want to keep seeing him out there. I mean, he's got his great line mates are continuing to set it up for him, and I love to see a Canuck at the top of that NHL goal scorer list, and hopefully he stays there.
Yeah, and three Canucks at the top of the points list, by the way, right now with Pedersen, Miller, and
Hmm.
Hughes all up there. Yeah, that speaking of that Besser's line mates, if you said, "Oh, Besser's going to have 13 goals in 16 games," and he's going to have Phil DiGiuseppe on his wing on the opposite side, I don't think any of us would have really expected that. But what a story at the very
No,
least.
what a story.
So 3-2 by the end of the period. Canucks sort of continue their run of second periods being very good to them. They outshoot them 15-9. They obviously have the 2 goals to the 1. And then the third period we go to, and the Canucks are, they can score, but they seemingly can't score at even strength. But then they get a bit of a break as we get Kuzmenko gets hooked by Dobson, and then he gets tripped like 10 seconds later on the delayed penalty. I was not expecting both to get called. Refs usually don't like to do that, and I understand why. But a full 2 minute 5-on-3, and this is one of those ones that you go into, and this is deciding the game, right? You fail to score here.
Hmm.
The Islanders have all the momentum, and they're gonna close this out. But we get a scary moment, right? We have Kuzmenko getting the shot up high by Miller. I mean, I don't know if it went on end for Miller's shot, or you obviously don't want to shoot that high at any point. The net is not up there, so that was tough to see. But you did see like he was surrounded by Canucks and Horvat, which I thought was good to see. It speaks a lot to him. But once that gets sorted, and hopefully Kuzmenko's okay, obviously, it looked sort of on the replay like sort of neck, shoulder, area. Like you just
Hmm.
hope it's shoulder, really, just damage wise. But the Canucks sort of take it easy for most of the power play. They like it feels like it's slipping away, and then Hughes and Hronek finally switch spots on the point, and they finally set up the one timer. And this can't be real, but the official NHL clock has it at 107.9 miles an hour for this Philip Hronek shot to tie the game. I mean, it's just an unreal goal for Hronek to get his first of the year. And we talk about the storyline of, oh, you have the Miller versus Horvat thing, and Horvat scored. Well, the Canucks flipped that pick for Hronek, and he comes out there and produces as well. What have you seen from Hronek so far this year? Do you think he's sort of setting into that top pair? Like, you think he can be a number one right D, or maybe more of a top
Oh,
four?
I mean, when you're paired with somebody like Quinn Hughes, who's playing like he is right now, it's hard not to also be playing so well. But you also think that that definitely is contributing to Quinn playing the way he is. I mean, when you know that you've got somebody reliable on your other side, you're going to take more chances, you're going to shoot, you're going to pass more because you know that they're reliable. I mean, Hronik is kind of a sleeper right now. I mean, he's putting up points. I mean, he has now broken or
Tied, I think.
tied the longest Canucks point streak of a defenseman. I mean, when you're talking about Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson and JT Miller having the seasons as they're having, even Thatcher Demko, you got to throw Hronik up in there. It's just turning out to be. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't like the trade at first, and the way we're seeing it go this season, you got to love Hronik.
Yeah, it felt a little bit aggressive of a trade. It's like, hey, well, we're not that good yet. But apparently, Alvin and Rutherford saw something we didn't, and all credit to them. They were apparently right. That's the crazy thing about Hronik. He's like, yeah, he's tied the franchise record for a point streak by a defenseman, and he's played 20 games in a Canucks uniform. Like that just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, when you have, Quinn Hughes, you can just pass it to and he'll create something and you can pile up some second assists if you need to. Did he get any other points tonight? Just the one. So
Just the
he's
one.
got an 11 game point streak. He's got 17 points in 16 games. So he's on an 80 plus pace. Yeah, he's been very good and eating, what's he at ice time wise? Like he's at 24 minutes a night on average. Which, yeah, he's just a minute muncher and he's like a plus 13 coming into this game. I don't know what he is now. All the Canucks goals are power play goals, so it doesn't really help the plus minus much.
No.
But yeah, he's been great. I think the Canucks were pretty bad the rest of the third period. Once they tied it, there was a lot of just like sort of poor gap control and just allowing a bunch of dangerous chances in tight. You have Ian Cole pulling a puck off the line. You have on that Anders Lee play, you have Demko, the one I mentioned before, where he throws it around the boards and has to make a diving save, essentially. You have Sebastian Aho, not the good one, but the defenseman hitting the crossbar. Like too many scary things really happening. But I'm just sitting there like, please just get a point. Get to OT. Get a point. Like let's keep the train rolling. And they do. They get there. And OT is pretty uneventful. Besser almost gets that breakaway, but Miller passed it to him too late. The Isles really never had the puck. And then you have JT Miller was too late on that pass to Besser, but he's not too late on the pass to Hughes, who just snuck behind Bo Horvat, who should have been on him. And he's off to the races and he's not like right now, he's not missing.
No, not a chance.
Yeah. 6 goals
I mean,
for Quinn Hughes.
unbelievable. The guy just when you say the sky's the limit, space, other galaxies are the limit for him right now. He just is unstoppable. He puts up another multi-point night. I mean, when it comes to overtime tonight, you really got to give some credit to JT Miller winning those draws. I mean, he's been unbelievable in overtime for honestly most of his career. And it wouldn't have worked out without those wins. And I mean, you couldn't write it better with Quinn sneaking off behind Horvat, and you just
The new
I love
captain,
that. I love
just
the
keep
new captain
piling on
flying past the old captain into the future. Yeah, I love the way that game ended. I think, yeah, 1 point would have been great with the way they started and the way they ended in the third. And yeah, my main takeaway, I hope Kuzmenko's okay. I hope we get
Yeah.
some word soon. And another 2 big points.
Yeah, especially Edmonton's won 3 in a row. Obviously, they're so far behind, but they have the skill, right? You still have McDavid and Draisaitl, and the Flames were sort of on the edge to begin with, but they've won, I think, like 4 of their last 5 or something. They're on a bit of a heater right now too, and the Canucks are just they've built this 10 to 15 point lead on them both, and they're just holding them back because the Canucks are now first in the Western Conference. Like, who saw that coming midway through November when last year this team, was out of it by now, essentially, for them to go out and, yeah, they are ahead of Vegas now for the top of the conference, second in the entire NHL. You have the top 3 point getters in the entire league. You have a defenseman who now in Quinn Hughes has 26 points in 16 games. And he plays, I think he plays his 300th career game tomorrow.
Mhm.
Just everything is going right for this team. And I think the big thing for tonight is Demko is human tonight. And again, a couple of the goals
Mhm.
were weird, but he was human, and the Canucks they just outscored their problems.
Yeah, it was major to see them. I mean, a lot of their games so far, a lot of their points have come against division teams. So seeing them play in the last few games against Eastern Conference teams and against teams that aren't in the division, to see them be able to face these different teams and put up points and come back from a 2 goal deficit, say that's major. It shows there's no quit in this team. They're rolling. I mean, they hadn't trailed for long coming into this game in many games. So to see them trail for as long as they did and still put up the win and just grind until the very last second. Maybe not so much in the end of the third there with how chaotic it was, but they're gelling, they're clicking, and they're the perfect mix of good and lucky. And I think that's what you need to go far in this league.
Yeah, they have been lucky. There's no doubt about that. Um, but they've been so lucky that they've built up such a buffer that they're playing with house money at this point. I mean, yeah, my big takeaways from this game, obviously the guys who needed to be good were good, right? Pedersen looked a little bit more like himself at times because he's been a little off lately. Dakota Joshua, like I mentioned, was fantastic. I thought the video tribute to Bo and sort of the zoom in on him getting a little misty eyed, I thought was great. And speaking of, by the way, everyone in here, we will get to your questions, so stick around. We'll take a few questions in about 10 minutes or so. But yeah, that's essentially where we're at for the game. The Canucks are rolling. They play again tomorrow night against the Flames at 6. So make sure you're subscribed here and hit like and make sure you tune in for tomorrow night's show. Canucks at the top of the Western Conference. The Islanders are falling a bit, and if you're Bo Horvat, maybe you're sort of looking as like, why couldn't they do that while I'm here or while I was there? But I sort of wanted our second segment, and as you decided to go with Bo as your interview candidate last year when you did the Botchford Project. Second best choice there, I think, to Niels Oman, because he was great. But what was your experience like? Obviously you had, I think you were I think, no, you did have the longest conversation with Horvat out of the three of us. I remember us standing there and being like, wow, he just keeps talking as we peered over there. What was that experience like?
It was once in a lifetime. I mean, somebody like Bo, I mean, you're talking to the captain of an NHL team. It was my first NHL interview, so a pretty big moment. I mean, we've got our Botchford pins on here. And so very thankful to that experience. Horvat, I will always be a Bo Horvat fan. I mean, it stung a little when he left and said the things that he did. But I think that's probably biting him in the backside a little bit now. And I don't think he meant it. I think, things were handled the way they were handled. And in the moment, talking to him, I mean, just such a warm and welcoming presence. Obviously nervous walking into it. And he just made me feel right at home and invited me to sit in Miller's stall. He said he didn't care what Miller would think when he got back and joked with me. And the way he talked about this city, I mean, the guy loved it here, and it makes sense why he was getting emotional both during the video tribute and during warm-up, seeing the fans out there with their signs. I mean, he couldn't stop tossing pucks over the glass to fans. You saw him get emotional there. You saw him get emotional. I mean, of course, we were going to get some mixture, but he was well liked, and I see why. He loved this city. I mean, he started his family here and his career, and just what a guy, what a stand-up guy. So wonderful. I will never forget that conversation that I had with him.
Yeah, and I got that same impression. Even like I think I walked by him in the hallway when we were like getting everything like because you sort of get ushered around when you're in that scenario. Like he walked by us in the hallway, gave a little nod, and I was like, that's just like he didn't have to do that even, right? Like he's here, he's working. He doesn't have to give anyone the time of day. Yeah, I think the whole thing of like are we gonna boo him or not? And I mean, we saw it with Bertuzzi last year, with Kessler last year. It was like, yeah, no, like people thought Kessler was going to get booed, and his comments were a lot worse than Horvat's were, right? He was like, I've scored a lot of important goals in this building, and like the goal he scored with Anaheim, he's like, that was one of the best ones. And I was like, okay, that's more of a cheap shot than Horvat getting excited for a playoff push, I think. But yeah, 9 years, which it doesn't feel like at all. Like looking back, it's like how does that much time go by? But yeah, he was drafted to be, the day he was drafted, it was like, this is the future captain. Cause that was, he was the captain in London and had that like super clutch goal. I think in the Memorial Cup, was it the final even? Either way, he was destined to be the captain, on a team that wasn't assembled very well, under the previous regime. Right. Especially you see sort of the dichotomy now of having these cheap contracts on Lafferty and Suter and Joshua and all these guys at the bottom of the lineup, compared to Jay Beagle and Antoine Roussel and those guys all making $3 million a year to do the same job, and honestly not as well. I totally see why Bo would be frustrated in that scenario, right? Like you've been thrown into this leadership role in which you are essentially, you don't have any say in how good the team is going to be. You just got drafted here, and the team wasn't good. But when he needed to be good, he was, right. It wasn't like he phoned it in. You look back to 2020 in the bubble against St. Louis, and just how he stepped up and carried the Canucks through that round, to get to that Vegas series and give Demko the chance to be bubble Demko as we sort of look back on it. So yeah, I'm a big Bo Horvat fan as well. I'll always look at him as, obviously I kind of respect the booing him when he touches the puck, because right now he is your enemy, and I like that. But after the game and before the game and during the tribute, like he gave really a third of his life at this point to this city, and he represented the jersey pretty well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think sometimes too it gets a little bit lost, and we have to kind of remember he didn't walk away from the team. He never stopped giving this team his all. At the end of the day, he was traded. As much as we love sports and we love hockey, it is a business. It happens. It was a tough goodbye. I was so happy to see him back. Happy to see him score. As much as this is a Vancouver show, it's nice to see your former players succeed. And I think that's what Canucks fans should be doing, is wishing him the best, and yeah, boo him when he's in town, and support him when he's not.
Yeah, you say that you were happy to see him score. If the Canucks didn't win this game, looking back on it now, I'm like, good for him. In the moment, I was mad. It's like, why are you giving him the puck? Like, you knew it was going to come. But yeah, in the moment, it wasn't great. But yeah, looking back on it now, Canucks get their 2 points. Doesn't matter. The Islanders got a point. They're obviously in the East. So I would love for the Islanders to make a push, right? I mean, it sucks to look over at him and be like, man, you had so many years in the basement here, and now you're on a team that is, second from the bottom in the Metro. Now, the Metro is such a mess right now. Like they're only
Chaos.
3 points out of a playoff spot, maybe 4. It is 3. So a win tonight would have been big, but they do have a lot of time to make that up. And I think they get close at the very least, and I hope they do. It would be fun to see Bo Horvat in playoff mode, because I think that's where he excels. And that was great points on your conversation with him. Wishing him all the best, of course.
Mm-hmm. That's all you can do.
So now's a great time for a couple of questions before we wrap up here. We see some coming in, and we'll start with this one from Jeremy. We've obviously heard a lot of rumors, especially with the Calgary Flames having to shed some weight there because they are sitting so far out of it. And they're on a little bit of a run right now, but I think they can sort of see like, hey, we're so far behind right now that we need to play like a 110-point team to even get there. The Athletic has them at a 43% chance to make it in, and I'm sure their win tonight will boost that. But they're not a contender right now. So They're looking at moving guys like Zadorov and Tanev. But Jeremy asks, what moves should the Canucks make to bolster the blue line? And honestly, I'll sort of elaborate on that. Should they make any moves to bolster the blue line?
Oh, it's a hard question. I mean, I have heard the rumors of Zadorov coming this way, and I don't hate them, but things are clicking right now. And I mean, we have the Carson Soucy injury, so you wonder if that's gonna drive them to make moves. I mean, he's going to be out a little longer than I think we all had originally anticipated. I mean, we're going to have to see what happens to Kuzmenko here. He is a forward. But again, making moves, having those guys in the lineup. I like our depth right now. I don't know how I would feel about changing it up when things are clicking. But I mean, if it comes up for a good price, then why not jump on it?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit tentative because I still don't think. I mean, this team's won 12 out of 16 games. Like this team is good, right? They genuinely are, and you see it on the ice. They're a lot better than they have been historically. Rick Talk has got them playing, a completely different way that's working for them. But I look at it, I'm always like, I'm just like, I'm so scarred from the past of, the move for Connor Garland and giving up futures for that. And it's like, are we really at that point? But this is the management group that made that move for Philip Hronik, which is looking great. And they do seem to have a good eye for, defensive talent. Yeah, having Soucy out is not ideal. And we had that fear that Myers would be out as well, potentially. And Soucy's out for weeks at this point. Which is scary because this team has a lot of guys, but not a lot of NHL caliber guys on defense. And that was my biggest concern with them coming into the year. It was, like, do they have a great forward group? This team can score goals. They have two goalies who are really good. And then the defense, they've got seemingly two guys. We don't know what Ian Cole's going to do. We don't know what Soucy's going to do. We probably know what Myers is going to do. And then fill in whoever the sixth is going to end up being. So yeah, I see those rumors, but I'm also like, Mark Friedman's been very good. And that's been a big boon, but once you get past him, like I haven't really been impressed with Noah Juleson. I love Akito Hirose, but he hasn't really been doing a ton in the AHL. I like Wolanin, but the second you call him up, you send him down, he does have to go through waivers, although anyone you acquire probably would be in that same boat. Wolanin's a little bit more offensive oriented, which Tocchet might not like for a guy who needs to play 12 minutes a night. So everything sort of points to if you can get a guy and it doesn't involve you, losing your top prospects, you're not losing maybe a Lekari or Willander, but maybe it's more of like an Atu Ratu, or someone who's more of a bit of a between guy. Then I can probably get on board. And the thing is, like, once it happens, I'll sell myself on it anyways, and I'll just get excited because the team's playing good.
Yeah, that's the joys of being a sports fan is you just kind of have to accept it.
Yeah, and Clay does mention here that we will have $3 million in space when Soucy goes on LTI, which he will. So that's good at the very least. Let me see if there was. Silas asks, how do you think the Canucks will do in the playoffs? Now, looking at that question in November, I would have, if someone said, "Oh, they're like, how do you think the Canucks are going to do in the playoffs?" as if they're making it, I would not have seen that coming. Obviously, at this point, yeah, what do you see this team doing at that point? Because very likely that they're going to be in the dance at least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to get too ahead of myself, but barring no craziness happens and they keep playing the way they are, or even not quite to the caliber they are, if they keep steady, I think they will be there. And honestly, I would love to see it. And I know this city as a whole has been eagerly and anxiously anticipating a return. I think you've got four lines that can score goals. Like, and that's what gets you deep in the playoffs is having those guys that come up out of nowhere and are putting up points and are making a difference. And I really do think that this team has that. I mean, you get somebody like you face a team and they're putting a stop to your top line. I mean, that when you have a team like the Canucks are built right now, that second, that third, that fourth line, they're going to come out and they're going to pick up the slack. And if Demko stays playing the way he is, I mean, that's tonight might be an off one, but he can be a playoff caliber goalie that can really make a difference in a run.
Yeah.
And I frankly would love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. This team is, again, the defense is a little scary, but they have they have a few game breakers who can just win games, right? Like in a series, like Quinn Hughes can win you a game. Elias Pettersson can win you a game. Demko can win you a couple, as we've seen in the past. Yeah, this team's going to be, they're not going to be a favorite, right? Even if they, again, I'm looking at the Athletics predictions. They have the Canucks at, projected to get 104 points, which would have them second in the West by the end of the year, ahead of Colorado. So they would be playing whoever wild card 2 is, right? Actually, no, because they wouldn't be the division winner. I guess they would play whoever third in the Pacific is, which they're projecting would be Edmonton. That's a scary matchup if you're the Canucks, right? But it's also one
that's terrifying.
but that's a team that, you're putting Demko against any one of their goaltenders, unless they go pick one up, which I think if they start to get back in the mix, they'll have to. I'm taking Demko in a 7-game series over anybody at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if it is Edmonton, if that's what it comes down to, it seems like they've got them figured out so far this season. So I mean, I don't hate that matchup.
Yeah, no, it would be fun. It's just so bizarre to think like this team's projected to get second in the West. That just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, hopefully we get to that point and we can. It's really just going to be a matter of staying healthy for this team, because yeah, if they play it at 95-point pace, which we sort of, or at least I sort of thought is where this team was going to be this year. They played a 95-point pace the rest of the way. They're going to get 103, 104 points just because of how much of a buffer they've built. So, yeah, they genuinely could be in the mix. And if we get to February and March and the team maybe has a couple injury troubles, but they're still top 2 in the Pacific, even top 3 with a bit of a gap, then yeah, let's add a couple pieces. Let's make it a little bit interesting. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, you can't make the playoffs in November, but you can give yourself a nice buffer to get there. And I think they're doing just that.
You can sure take yourself out of the playoffs in November, which we
Which
saw
we've
last
seen this
year.
team do a time or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, excellent. We're getting close to the 40-minute mark. So it's probably a great place to wrap up. Thank you everybody for tuning in today. We're over 200 people in here, which is fantastic. Make sure you're subscribed while you're here. You can find me over Parker's Pucks on YouTube, Parker's Pucks on Twitter. Allie, where can the people find you?
You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Allie Penders. Check me out there. And
Excellent.
if you're at a Canucks game this season, let me know. I'll come say hello.
Excellent. Everyone go follow Allie on Twitter. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure you stay tuned tomorrow night, Canucks and Flames. It will not be me here tomorrow. It will be, as I pull up the schedule, it will be Clay, who's in the chat here. So nice and early one, 6 p.m. start. Anyways, thank you all very much. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time.